Good morning, everyone. So, welcome to our daily news analysis. As always, we are doing the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper. So, first of all, we get to know that we have the new 15th president, Draupadi Murmu. So, first person from the tribal community. With reference to Sri Lanka, uh, since Vikram Singhe was the prime minister of Sri Lanka, now he's the president. So, new prime minister to come up in Sri Lanka, and it is most likely Dinesh Gunawardene. Then we have clarify actions taken against hate speech. So we have the issue of hate speech in news again, and this time Supreme Court has sought the reply of what is the government, be it at the center, be it at the states, they are doing with reference to hate speech. So this hate speech issue is very, very important. UPSC has asked this at least twice in the last 10 years with reference to freedom of speech and expression. Okay. Now, Supreme Court was hearing a series of cases with reference to the incidents of hate speech, especially with reference to Prophet Muhammad, right? So it was, and in this regard, it has sought the reply from the government. Now, here the petitioners, that is people who have posted this case with the Supreme Court, they have referred to the 2017 judgment in the Tehseen Poonawalla case. So this judgment has also come to the forefront. So since this is being quoted, naturally this is important. So we should know about this case. And sometimes UPSC also asks, like, what was held in so-and-so case, or what is the role of judiciary in protecting the fundamental rights or in checking the hate speech. So with that light also we should be preparing, and all of this, naturally it goes into the GS2. Okay, so Tehseen Poonawalla case, what happened was that in 2017, so let me just write this here. So we remember, all these cow lynching incidents had taken place during that time, and before that also. So Supreme Court, Chief Justice of India, to be precise, they had directed the center as well as the state to take preventive measures, remedial measures. That is, if something has happened, then it has to be remedied. The person who has suffered should be remedied. Right? And those who have done the wrong thing, for them, punitive action should be taken. But actually, in this case, it was if the police is not complying with the preventive or the remedial measures, then punitive action will be taken against the state authorities. Okay, so what were the preventive measures? So preventive measures were that, and this you can use it for hate speech, hate speech is taking place, lynching is taking place. So what steps should be taken? So you can quote the Tehseen Poonawalla case. So with reference to preventive, naturally, imagine some incident is going to take place or it is expected to take place. You would want the police to be there. You want authorities should be on high alert. Provocative speeches, fake news, etc. should be stopped. If something wrong has taken place, FIR should be filed immediately. If it was seen that FIR is not getting filed, so FIR should be filed. Police should take action. Right, so it should charge sheet the suspects, accused, so that should take place. Then there should be fast track courts to deal with the issue of hate speech. And when these two are not being done, then in that case, punitive action should be taken against the concerned authorities. So this is the Tehseen Poonawalla case. So you can use this actually quite easily in your answers. Kejriwal keen on Singapore trip. Despite LG governors, lieutenant governors no. Okay, so what is the Singapore trip all about? It's about the World Cities Summit. So it is about the leaders of different cities will come together, they will discuss the problems, they will discuss their case studies, success stories. So that is what they will be doing over here. Okay, now we should know what is the theme of the upcoming summit, which is going to take place from 31st July to 3rd of August. So we should know about the theme of such events. So let me just get to this thing. So World Cities Summit. Right, so it is a platform for government leaders and industry experts to address livable and sustainable city challenges. And what is the theme? Livable and sustainable cities emerging stronger. So UPSC typically asks such questions. Okay, and this is a biennial conference, right? So yeah, so this is it actually, and this is being organized by the government of Singapore, ministries of Singapore, etc. Okay, now with reference to this local bodies, we keep talking about this local body reforms is important. So here you can see some problems with the functioning of the local bodies. This is about the workers protesting for non-payment of salaries. Casualization of the workers over here. They are being hired on contract basis. Sanitation workers force. So this is a very bad situation, and this is the municipal corporation of Delhi. Delhi is the capital of the country. Imagine what would be the situation in other parts of the country. Okay. So exercise caution while airing distressing content. So this is about the media houses actually. So this was the animal cruelty cases. So some people had posted videos and they're throwing off the dog. Somebody's torturing their dog or certain other animal, and they were recording it in the social media for getting views. So the same was being aired by the media houses, by the news. Now, thing is that this should come with some warning, or at least certain parts should have been blurred. So that is why the Ministry of Information and Broadcast is taking action, and High Court says that you should have done this. You are at the wrong side. Okay, and we get to know that this media houses are regulated by the cable television network rules. So quickly, we are going to the next pages. Okay, this is about this is in should I say about the Assamese Muslims. So indigenized, some Muslims are from here, some are not. Something like that is taking up. So not doing this, but what is interesting was this sweeping mandate. This is about subcommittees to bring in reforms or address the socio-economic concerns of the Muslims. So see, 5 subgroups of Assamese Muslims, Sayyid, Goria, Moria, whatever. So they are being tagged as indigenous Assamese Muslim. So when this is done, naturally, you are indigenous, you are from outside. What does that mean? And what does indigenous actually mean also is not very clear. But naturally, there are certain community leaders who do not like this. And this seems to be something to be motivated by political considerations also. We favor this community, if we do not favor this, they will not vote for us, they will vote for us. Something like that. Okay. Then they're saying that implementation of the Uniform Civil Code should take place. Then women should discard social subjugation, not be coerced to wear niqab, burqa, hijab, right? So this should be there. Then scholarships should be provided for Assamese Muslim women belonging to the economically weaker sections. Sterilization services. So all this is recommended over here. Okay. In fact, when we are talking about this, we can also refer to the Raghav Sachar committee report, right? So that's your homework. Okay. A decade of Swara Samrat festival. So what is this? So this is the 10th edition. So that means 10 such events have taken place, and this particular event will celebrate the centennial of Sarod Mastro Ustad Ali Akbar Khan. So art and culture part of our syllabus. So 100 years of him. So maybe we can have a short note also about his contributions to the field of art and culture. Okay, now what is Swara Samrat festival? Where is it organized? Here it says Delhi. So is it always held in Delhi? No. So for example, in the present it will be held in Delhi plus all the other metros, actually four other metros it will take place. Now, is this Swara Samrat festival being organized by the government? No. It is being organized, it's the brainchild of Sarod Mastro Pandit Tejinder Narayan Mazumdar and his vocalist wife family. So it's It's basically his family, so it's a personal initiative which is doing this via their trust known as Sri Ranjani. So Shri Ranjani Foundation Trust. Okay, so they are doing this. Okay, we are going to the state news over here now. Stolen 19th century painting traced to, just a second, yeah, traced to the US Museum. Okay, so 19th century painting. So this painting was the painting of Raja Serfoji and his son Shivaji. So his time period was 1832, and he was basically he was the king of the Travancore, and his kingdom was taken over under the regime of Lord Dalhousie. So we have heard about Lord Dalhousie. So Lord Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse. So we may not be having a son. Here it says there is a son, maybe not a national son, or this claim of the son being the successor of Raja Sarojji was not accepted by the British. Whatever. Right. So this painting was there, and this has been traced to the US Museum. So here we find that the CID wing, the idle wing of the CID, has been investigating this and is trying to get this back to India. So here there is a reference of the UNESCO treaty. So please have a look at this. So what is this UNESCO treaty? And here it says why the art collectors need to be conscious of the UNESCO treaty. So it is the Convention on Means of Prohibiting Illicit Import, Export, Transfer of Ownership and Cultural Property. And if this has happened and it is in different country, then other jurisdictions should work together and investigate it. And there is a provision of getting this back to the home country also. Right, so this is the Wikipedia page of the same. Okay, so political news. No investment clearance for Kaleshwaram Centre. So Kaleshwaram says Centre. So project not eligible for national scheme. So what scheme are they talking about, right? Where is Kaleshwaram located? And what was this project all about? So basic we should know. So Kaleshwaram lift project is in Telangana, and this is obviously Kaleshwaram lift irrigation project, right? So it's associated with irrigation and with the state of Telangana. So the center is saying that this Kaleshwaram project is not coming under the national project scheme of the Jal Shakti Ministry, so Ministry of Water. So it is not coming under this. So what is this national project scheme? We should know. So national project scheme was introduced via the 11th 5-year plan. So about the water projects that are not yet fulfilled, not yet committed as yet. So these should be developed, and they should be developed so as to help the people. Nationally, all projects are about helping the people. Okay, now since these are about water, and for water we have a dedicated ministry known as Jal Shakti Ministry, right? So we were doing this, 1 second. Yeah, so I really could not find now the national project scheme except for the one that is mentioned in the 11th 5-year plan. But we do have this from the ministry. So within the Jal Shakti ministry, there are two broad schemes. So that is about water supply, rural water supply, and other is about the rural sanitation. So with reference to the rural water supply, there is a scheme known as the Jal Jeevan Mission, whose aim is to provide safe and adequate drinking water through individual household tap connections. So tapped water to each rural household by 2024. That's why it is also known as Har Ghar Jal Yojana. Right, so this is the main scheme actually. And then there is the rural sanitation. So this is about the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So you can browse through this website a bit more and get more of this information. Yeah, you can read this page later. In Pegasus battle, the fight for surveillance reform. Now the big question arises: from where is Pegasus coming now? Pegasus was, so the reason why it is there in the news is that it's about a year that Pegasus incident has taken place. That is why we have two articles. So one is in the opinion section and the other one is in the explainer section. Okay, so this article is telling us about surveillance reform, and really didn't get much in the surveillance sphere. Okay, so what this article is saying is that you can get the detailed video, by the way, on the channel, so that is there, but briefly. So Pegasus, as we all know, or we may not all, not everybody would be aware. So Pegasus was a spyware. That is, it was a software that could be used to track information, right? So via mobiles or whatever, information could be spied. A person could be spied, basically. So typically such softwares are for national security, for safety of the people. And there are laws also, like in Indian context, we have the IT Act and the Telegraph Act. So Telegraph Act is for surveillance or spying, phone tapping, etc. So that is Telegraph Act, and IT Act is for any electronic device. Okay, so this is for this purpose. It is for the safety of the citizens. So it's a surveillance program. It is about spying also. It can be. Okay. Now, what is happening is that last year what came to light was that this very serious Pegasus software, could be installed in anybody's phone even without user's action. So without one's knowledge, this could be installed into your phone or any devices, and it has overriding powers, like it can use your phone camera, it can use your mic without your knowledge. Okay, so that was and in this there was this leak that had taken place which said that this Pegasus software was being installed in opposition leaders, some of the ministers of the union government, then members of the judiciary. And this was not just in India, but in other countries also. So there was a bit of a hue and cry on this issue, but the Indian government didn't really respond positively on this. Other countries still did it, but not in the Indian context. And if you look at it, this is a breach of one's privacy also, which has been declared as a fundamental right via various judgments of the Supreme Court, most notably the Puttaswamy case. Okay, so Puttaswamy case comes to the is important. Okay, now naturally, if all this is taking place, and besides Pegasus, more and more softwares are coming into the news. For example, so we have list of certain softwares like Beltrox. So this is a software that provides surveillance for hire. Then we have, wait a second, I'll just let you know. So few names were given actually. Netwire, yeah. So Netwire was there. So some Indian activists of the Bhima Koregaon case, when that had taken place, so Netwire was installed. So besides Pegasus, there is this Pegasus, there is this Netwire, then there is this Indian company known as Beltrox, right? So these are there, which are engaged in surveillance. More and more of these softwares are coming. The surveillance would become cheaper also. So idea is that more people fall under the ambit of surveillance, and not just surveillance, but the phone could be misused also. False evidence could be planted into anybody's phone, so that could also take place. Okay, so naturally now the need arises of a reform for surveillance. Some system of accountability should be there. There is hardly, because this is a confidential thing, this is about national security, so government claims claims exemptions on declaring information on this. it's about intelligence. It would compromise national security if India says that this government says we are using this software, that software. So there is a need for reform, and reform starts first of all by bringing in accountability. There should be some system of accountability which is not there in our country. So some oversight body, some authority should be there, independent body that should be there. Second, we need to review the laws. So these laws like Indian IT Act, so this was in sometime in 2000, Telegraph Act is much before that. So we need to update the laws given the advancements in the technology, and these laws should be accommodative of the concerns of the privacy, the views of the Supreme Court. So those should also be taken care of. Right, so that should be there. Now, besides this, even Puttaswamy judgment, it's relevant to talk about the Puttaswamy judgment also. So Puttaswamy judgment had said that privacy is not an absolute right. It is a right, but it is not an absolute right. And there is a reasonable ground for the state to intervene. But there is a condition. First of all, it should be a legitimate reason for national security or some other event. So it should be for a legitimate goal. Spying on opposition leader does not seem to be a legitimate goal. Somebody who's critical of the government's views doesn't seem to be. Okay, so that is, it should be legitimate. Second is the use of surveillance, use of spying, or use of any action that undermines privacy should follow the doctrine of proportionality. That is, depending on the degree of risk, the profile of the person, the intervention should be decided. If the risk is more, then use as many resources as you wish. If the risk is less, then use lesser resources. Or the privacy should be breached to a lesser extent. And all of this is being done should be under the purview of law. It should be legal. So the last is legality. So this was the threefold test that the Puttaswamy judgment had given. So what you're basically getting in this article, and not really Puttaswamy also, and the laws need to be enhanced, but what should be there in the laws is not mentioned in this article. So what my goal is that you get the theme over here from exam point of view. Rest we have the Pegasus video also, so all of this was actually discussed. Okay, so advantage New Delhi in Sri Lanka's advantage New Delhi in the Sri Lanka's India lifeline. So long story cut short, Sri Lanka is facing a financial crisis. India should provide them assistance, which they are doing. Right. So given the humanitarian crisis, India is providing them a loan deferment or giving them more loans, more grants, so that India is doing. So this they should do. And this should bring Sri Lanka closer towards India. And this will be like if India focuses on the concerns of Sri Lanka. So this will be a great victory of Prime Minister Modi's and in fact previous ministers also, prime ministers, a neighborhood first policy. Right, so neighborhood first policy over here. So if India and if India is able to help Sri Lanka, this will also be a template. If Bhutan is under trouble, or if not Pakistan, but Maldives is under trouble, so neighborhood first policy. So they will look up to India. So that would be positive for India also. And here one more thing they are saying is that India can work together. India can discuss together with US, the Western countries like Japan, US. Japan is the East, I know, but they are aligned with the West only. So they can work together, negotiate with the IMF and get them a favorable deal. So India can play a pivotal role in that, and that would also help. So India's own paying capacity may not be good, but this India can do. So by the way, by 2022, India has provided aid worth of $3.8 billion. This is nothing as compared to what China has given. But if India can collaborate with other countries and provide aid to Sri Lanka, that will be good. And at this present juncture, We know that Sri Lanka was borrowing excessively from China, and all these port projects, etc. These were unsustainable, and there is a bit of anger against China's Belt and Road program. And there is greater scrutiny on China's debt trap diplomacy. That is, giving out loans to the country, and if they are not able to pay back, then they will say that, okay, fine, give us this port on lease or something else. Right? So they have been involved in land grabbing in other countries. Now, this is a dilemma for China also, because China has been giving out loans to many other countries, and their capacity to pay back is also very, very limited. Now, let's say China says that we will defer your loans or we will restructure your loans. So, if they do it for Sri Lanka, they will have to do it for, let's say, Mongolia, Central Asian countries where they are having their projects. And this will become unsustainable for China. So, China is also under its dilemma. Now, no matter what, it is up to Sri Lanka now. The new leadership of Sri Lanka, they have to bring this country back to normalcy. So they have to talk to the IMF and concerned agencies to get a good package, monetary support, so that they are able to bring back the economy back into order. And for that, they will also have to bring their population under consensus. There should be a consensus for reforms. That would mean that social welfare schemes or something would be reduced, or taxation would be increased. So those measures would take place, and people don't like higher taxes. So national consensus is required, and they will also have to ensure that law and order is brought into the place, right? So rule of law is back in Sri Lanka. Without political stability, we can't have much economic prosperity. Okay, what is Kerala doing with reference to its fight against monkeypox? I think we already know quite a bit about this, right? So first thing is isolation. Incident has come to light, isolation. Then those who are suspected, their samples should be taken, right? So take their samples, observe them, so that should take place. And field level surveillance of cases should take place. For suspects, etc., should take place, and again the same cycle should go on. So this is it. 1 year since the Pegasus spyware revelations. You can actually do this quiz. You will get some inputs, and I feel UPSC can also take up this for framing their questions also. Right, so please do follow this. It will be beneficial to you. Karnataka tops Niti Aayog innovation list. Innovation index list. So what is this innovation index list, first of all? So, there is this global innovation index that is launched by the NSEED. So there is an organization known as NSEED, so not by the government, but NSEED, with certain World Business Magazine plus Cornell University. So some institutions have brought out this index, which is ranking the countries as to how they are performing on innovation parameters. So naturally, India also wants to be ranked as a country who's doing well in the field of innovation. It is required also. It gives the country a cutting edge, a competitive edge. Okay, so India wants to be here. But for India, like government of India says that we are doing great, it's not going to work that way, right? There are states within India, they have to perform well. So what Niti Aayog has done is, and they have been doing this for many other things, that they have the global innovation index, they know the parameters, so they are now ranking individual states for that. So if all the states do well, India is doing well. So now they are ranking the states on the performance of the innovation. So this has been adopted, which was a national indicator, has been adopted for states. And we get some information like Karnataka is topping this, right? So Karnataka, Telangana, Haryana. So top 3-4 you should know. So yeah, so they are doing well over here. And this, this again is an example of competitive federalism. So competitive federalism means creating a competition amongst the states to do better. Okay. So this is there. Now, with reference to placing India in the list of top 25 nations, the Niti Aayog has had formed a committee, and this gave a following set of recommendations that India must follow, right? India must do. So these you can use, actually, these you can keep a note also. I have shared it on my Instagram page also. So what does it think? So first of all, India should increase the expenditure on the R&D. So gross domestic expenditure on R&D. Then private sector participation should also increase in R&D. So in India, the R&D spend is anyways less, and private sector is not contributing in that also. Then closing the gap between industry and academia. Right. So three things they are saying. So one is more expenditure, GDP spend on the R&D that should take place, private sector participation, and the gap between industry and education systems. So this can be bridged. Now, with reference to the spend, in India, we are spending only 0.7% of the gross domestic product. So only 0.7%, it is not adequate. They recommend that it should touch at least 2%. So that is important. Besides, there are a lot of other things that also can be done. For example, the patents file, the reforms in the patent law, creation of public educational, public infrastructure for R&D. So such other initiatives can also be done. So these are easy to find on the PIB also. So we can get this. Okay, so celebration amongst the tribal community for women getting elected as tribal women, and especially in Odisha, right? So, yeah. So the law minister is saying that no need to amend anti-defection law. So the law minister is saying that already the anti-defection law has survived the test of time. A lot of judiciary has also looked into it, and they have said this is constitutional. Only thing they have questioned, the courts have questioned, is the role of speaker, right? So speaker, we know that whatever the speaker decides on disqualification, on defection, is final. It cannot be questioned. So decision of the speaker is final. So this has been questioned. Now that is the view that the government is presenting, and they are one of the beneficiaries actually with the defections that have taken place. Okay, so we cannot blindly go by what they're saying. So, but briefly, we know what amendments should be done. So the issue of merger and splits, this is a problem. This allows for wholesale defection, not individual defection. So that is there. The undermining role of the MPs and the MLAs. So in fact, we can just refer to the Dinesh Goswami committee. So we have this on our channel also. So many things we have done on this. So this must be done. Food should reach all migrant workers, Supreme Court tells centers and states. So, it's about poor implementation of the supply of food for the migrant workers. So migrant workers, we all know with the pandemic also when it came, that migrant workers are not getting access to the food rations or any government schemes because they are migrants. They are moving to different states. The records are not there. Now we heard a lot about the One Nation, One Ration Card scheme for the welfare of the migrant workers. So it seems that not enough is being done on that regard. So potholes appear on the newly inaugurated Bundelkhand Expressway. Right? Okay, women have right to safe abortion. So this is there. With opposition absent, Lok Sabha defers debate on Antarctic bill. So Antarctic bill is there in news. We should be doing this. Okay, China is inviting foreign students who had gone back because of the pandemic, so back to their country. Okay, Italy is having defection-like situation now. Biden has mild symptoms of COVID. Russia to resume gas supplies to Europe via the Nord Stream. right? So we did this Nord Stream yesterday also. Okay. So yeah, I'm not doing this. Okay. Now we have an economic outlook coming from the Asian Development Bank. So Asian Development Bank, which is a Japan-led initiative. So it has paired India's growth. That means it has reduced India's growth outlook to 7.2% on the grounds of the inflation that is taking place. So naturally, because of the inflation, the consumer's purchasing power is getting undermined. It will affect the demand also. So demand will get affected because of this. Demand will come down. It will lead to a rise in cost. So cost of manufacturers especially, that will be undermined because of this. So their trade competence will be undermined. So naturally, the growth outlook has come down because of inflation. Now we may expect that since the currency is depreciating, we also know about the currency of ours is depreciating. So that means for $1, if we have to buy $1, we have to spend, let's say, rupees 80, right? So we have to spend 80. We can also put it this way, that if somebody is exporting, so they're trading in dollars, and when they're exporting, they will get 80 rupees back into the Indian economy. So earlier they were getting 70 rupees and now they're getting 80 rupees. So it should be better for the exporters. But what the Asian Development Bank is saying is, fine, the currency is depreciated and lower value of currency helps exporters. But at the same time, and this was asked in your pre also, there is a rising real effective exchange rate. So rising real effective exchange rate. So what this is saying is that fine, you are getting this trade competitiveness because of the lower value of your currency. But at the same time, the cost of production, the cost of giving salaries, cost of giving wages is increasing because of the inflation. So in effective terms, the cost, effective terms, the exchange rate is actually coming down. So what we were looking at here was nominal exchange rate in money terms. But if we say, okay, fine, in $1 we can buy, let's say, 5 baskets of something, 5 packets of milk or something, in $1 we can buy, right? But because of the inflation that has taken place, in $1 we can only buy 4 packets of milk. So in 80 rupees, you can buy only 4 packets. So the real effective exchange rate actually factors in inflation also. So given the inflation that has taken place, India's economy, India's exporters are not well placed. So manufacturing exporters, manufacturing firms will have a loss, but yes, mining companies stand to profit because of the higher commodity prices. European Commercial Bank, European Central Bank raises rate for the first time in decade, right? So this thing has taken place. We had heard about this previously also. So with this taking place, money is going back to Europe and they are investing in Europe, of course. So we have in India also foreign portfolio investors going back to US, going back to European Union. So we have heard about this previously, right? So this is it. Oil slips as rate hikes stoke demand fears. So that is okay. So rate is increasing, so there is probability of demand to come down of the oil. So that is why the oil rate has come down. Revenue of 49 auto parts to firms to grow 8 to 10%, says ICRA. And just now we heard that the growth outlook doesn't seem very, very well. So this is primarily, this can be explained by the emphasis. The ICRA has given some parameters here that people are, with steadily increasing premiumization of vehicles, so higher value things, localization, improved export potential. So these are certain reasons. So it's more about a sector's competitiveness, right? Sector taking some measures so that they remain competitive in the economy. So it's more about that. But overall, in macro terms, things do not look very, very good. Okay, so this is it. This is the business section. This is the sports section. So this concludes the session. Thank you for streaming in to our channel IASPrimers with me, Shubhashish. Bye bye. All the best.